In today's episode, we discuss one of the world's only coasters to go underwater and how it continues to evade Cedar Fair's chopping block. Welcome to Airtime Traveler. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Roller Coaster History Podcast. You are listening to Airtime Traveler. My name is Nathan Grace, and I'm joined by my wife and lovely co-host,
Haley Grace, that's me.
And thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. How you doing, Haley? How's your day been?
That's a weird question.
Why is it a weird question to ask how you're doing?
Because you know how I'm doing.
But they don't know how you're doing.
I'm the wife.
But the listeners don't know how you're doing.
I'm good.
How's your day been?
I mean, I have a 3-year-old, and I'm 27 weeks pregnant, so I'm about as good as I can be. So.
What was one exciting thing about your day today?
Parker danced to Ed Sheeran.
Oh, he did dance to Ed Sheeran, which is Haley's favorite.
Adorable in so many ways.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I was mowing the lawn and he kept just wanting to watch me, and then every now and then he'd get bored and Haley would have him dance it out to a song. So
well, he played with his water table.
That's true. He did play with some of his water toys too.
I was more bored sitting there, so I just turned on Ed Sheeran. I said, Parker, you want to dance? And he gets up and starts grooving. It was really cute.
Funny kid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if this is your first time listening to Airtime Traveler, here in this podcast, we're the Roller Coaster History Podcast. So we obviously talk about roller coaster history. But rather than talk about the history of the roller coaster in general, we take one roller coaster and we dive into history of that individual coaster. So I'm a coaster enthusiast and have been for a long time. And my wife, Haley, is a member of the GP, or the general public.
Heck yeah, I am.
So I'm here to do the research and tell the stories. And she's here to listen and make me more interesting. And that's how it works. I feel we do a good job.
What if I'm boring?
What if you're... Well, we're doomed.
All right, maybe our listeners can tell me what if I'm the boring one. We should figure this out.
I don't think you're the boring one, but if I'm boring and you're boring, then we're doomed. Then it's not a good time.
Oh, how can we entertain you more? I guess
the coaster is the one that has to do the heavy lifting to make things interesting.
I mean, coasters do some heavy lifting.
Well, that's true. You could probably do it.
Yeah.
Depending on the coaster.
That's true.
So. Well, I don't think I have a lot of news to talk about. I mean, there's a ton of announcements coming up, but nothing that's, our next episode, we may be able to talk about some news. But, I mean, August 1st, Cedar Point and Holiday World both have announcements. Pretty much, we pretty much know what both of them are at this point.
Yeah.
The only thing we don't know with the Cedar Point announcement is exactly what they're doing. We know it obviously is the refurb of Top Thrill Dragster, the reimagining of Top Thrill Dragster. So what that entails is to be determined.
Right.
I don't know if you've kept up on any news with it. A lot of people think it's going to be a multi-pass launch. So it'll launch... Actually, I don't know exactly. I think they think it's going to launch forward, go slightly up the top hat, and then launch backward into this massive, 300-foot spike that they're going to build. And then it'll go down the spike, launch a third time all the way up and over the 420-foot.
That's insane.
Top hat. So
I think I'd be really nervous to ride this on. Not gonna lie.
It's definitely a much, 300 feet is one thing. 400 is, that's a different ball game.
I've done Intimidator, and that was crazy.
Intimidator 305, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm don't know if I could do 400. That would be a bit much for me.
I think you'd at least do it once, and then maybe if it freaked you out.
I usually do.
If it freaked you out too much, you'd be like, okay, I don't want to do that again. But
watch me really black out. Not even gray out, black out. That would happen.
Yeah. So those two announcements are on August 1st. What else? August 10th, Dorney Park has an announcement, which they haven't had a new coaster in a long time, so that's exciting.
Silver Dollar City has their announcement.
Silver Dollar City's announcement is on the 14th of August. Just little bits and pieces I've gathered from rumors and people that have taken pictures and inside knowledge. It seems like it's an RMC coaster that they're building in there.
That'd be
But
so
it's
cool.
supposedly RMC's been teasing a new train on their socials, so people seem to think it's a new family coaster that RMC is doing.
I could see
But
that.
I've also heard people say they think it's going to be a launch coaster, which RMC's only ever done one launch coaster, so that would be cool.
But the thing
And
is,
then
is
the other
they have
thing,
a launch coaster though.
yeah, but if it's a launched family coaster, I mean,
Well,
there's parks that have multiple launch coasters,
I
so
guess that's true.
but then the other thing I've heard is potentially it could have drop tracks, which I've never even been on a coaster with a drop track before. Do you know what that? Do you know what that means? Basically, it's at the end of Rise of Resistance where it kind of you go in your vehicle and it locks into place and then you drop down.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Like the train will move onto a piece of track, it'll lock into place, and then the whole track will drop down to another section of coaster.
I don't know how I feel about that.
So it's done on the two most popular coasters that have that is Verbolten at Busch Gardens Williamsburg has a drop track, and then Hagrid's at Universal Studios actually has a drop track as well. So it has been done a few times, but certainly would be the first time RMC's ever attempted something like that. So, but I will say that that's just all kind of hearsay and rumors. I can't, obviously guarantee any of that, but anyway, should be interesting. We'll see what happens. And then Six Flags Over Georgia just said that they actually have an announcement on the 19th.
Wow.
They just said that yesterday on their socials. So and the Six Flags Fiesta Texas has been teasing an announcement, but they haven't given an official date of when they're announcing it. But with the amount of teasing that the park manager has been doing, it seems like it's a pretty big announcement. So I'm guessing another roller coaster. Well, and I totally forgot, SeaWorld Orlando just got a shipment of roller coaster track this week.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
And so they certainly have an announcement coming up. Again, it seems like from what I hear on that one, it's going to be a dark ride family launch coaster type.
Interesting.
So it'll be.
Well, we talked about too how Fury has done testing. Fury's
been started testing again. Yeah. Our last episode. Was it our last episode? I think so. I think it was our Super Duper Looper episode where we talked about Fury, and so that was just a couple weeks ago, and it's already fixed and testing again. So that's impressive.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, lots of stuff happening, but it's all speculation stuff right now. There's nothing official to talk about.
We'll have a lot to talk about.
So yeah, the next couple episodes, there's going to be a lot.
Maybe we should do a coaster conversations even with all the announcements.
That might not be a bad idea. Maybe like the end of August, try to do a coaster conversations, and we'll just talk about all the announcements. It's not a bad idea. We might have to do that. So,
see, your wife is so smart.
Yeah, see, GP has great ideas, guys. It is something we talk about in the enthusiast community, that as much as we love the roller coasters, without the GP, the amusement industry would not exist. So when we talk about like a roller coaster being built for the GP, like that's just as important as coasters being built that enthusiasts will enjoy, because without the GP, the parks can't, they're not going to have enough revenue to. Yeah. So it is important. Let's jump into today's topic. Okay. So today we're going to go back to King's Dominion, which the last King's Dominion episode we did was our Halloween special. In October of last year, we talked about Volcano the Blast Coaster. And then the only other King's Dominion coaster we've done is Dominator. So when that was really early. I think that was episode 5. So that was pretty early on. So it's been a minute since we've been to King's Dominion. One of our favorite parks we've been to, I think.
Honestly, yeah. It's probably one of my, Yeah, I would say it's probably my top 5 that I've been to.
Yeah, I know you rank it above Kings Island even, so.
I liked it better than Kings Island.
Yeah, so we love us some King's Dominion, but today we're going to be talking about probably one of their less popular coasters, but definitely one that's still fairly popular. I know you have your opinions about it, but we're going to be talking about Anaconda at King's Dominion. Now, do you remember which one this one is?
It's the one that goes over the water, right?
Yep, that's the one.
And I thought it was pretty bumpy.
Yep, it's fairly bumpy, and it has those over-the-shoulder restraints, so you're not crazy about it.
Too fond of it, yeah.
I actually wasn't even sure if you were going to get on it, but since we were there 2 days, the second day you're like, you know what, I'll try it, and so.
This was the trip I got sick, though, right? No, that was Kings Island.
No, yeah, it was later. So
yeah. You're right.
Yep. So no, this was the first day we were there. It was kind of rainy. Well, it was kind of rainy both days, but we were there with our friends Cody and Pam, and then the second day was just the two of us, and the crowds were not bad at all. So we pretty much got to ride whatever we wanted as many times as we wanted. So opened in 1991 at $5 million. 2,700 feet long, 128 feet tall, 50 mile per hour top speed. Average wait time for 2023, only 13 minutes. So not that long of a wait for the coaster.
For any coaster, I feel like that's pretty short.
Yeah, that's pretty short. So the Coaster Bot rankings, it ranks at number 336 in the country. That's very low. It ranks below coasters such as Viper at Six Flags Darien Lake, Demon at Six Flags Great America, and Carolina Cyclone at Carowinds. It ranks above coasters such as Demon at California's Great America, Corkscrew at Cedar Point, and Corkscrew at Valley Fair. At King's Dominion, it ranks 10th, that's crazy to even have 10 coasters. You throw this coaster in at Silver Dollar City and it would rank probably 5th, right? Yeah, so it's just crazy that it can rank 10th at a park but still be a halfway decent coaster. So number 1 is Intimidator 305, followed by Twisted Timbers. Then it goes Dominator, Flight of Fear, Racer 75. Number 6 is Backlot Stunt Coaster. Then Toombili and Grizzly and Reptilian make up 7, 8, 9. And then Anaconda 10. So
okay.
Review of the name. What's your opinion of the name?
I mean, Anaconda's a snake, so
I feel like snakes, like snake names for coasters, are always a pretty solid name. Like they kind of resemble snakes in a way.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
You got your Anaconda, Diamondback, Copperhead Strike, Viper. Snakes are pretty solid names for coasters, I think.
That's kind of what I was going to say. So
yeah. The logo isn't anything too special. Like, I think it's solid. It's not like...
I mean, ombre is such a style, so...
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's had the same logo since it opened, so...
Okay.
Yeah, not bad.
Not too shabby.
A review of the paint scheme and the trains. Oh, wow. We're off to a good start.
No, again, 27 weeks pregnant, 3-year-old.
Well, and we have to record these at night because it has to be after our 3-year-old's gone to bed, and so that doesn't help matters.
No, it doesn't. I'm so tired by this point that I'm like,
I gotta be honest, I'm not crazy about the paint scheme. Like, I don't think it's bad. The yellow rails kind of throw me off a bit.
I like it.
Really? You like the red with the yellow rails?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So sue me.
I'm not gonna sue you. I'm not gonna say your opinion's wrong. It's just interesting.
You're saying my opinion's wrong.
No, I'm saying I disagree. That doesn't make your opinion wrong. Maybe my opinion's wrong.
It is wrong.
Well, okay then. I'll try to be amicable about this and just cutthroat. No, I think it's a solid scheme. The only problem I have with it, which we'll talk about later, is the coaster right next to it is Intimidator 305, which is red and yellow. So they kind of clash a little bit because they're both the same colors. But anyway, we'll get into that later. The trains, I think they're fine. I do appreciate that the trains are at least a good contrasting color to the rest of the ride. Oh, are you not crazy about the trains?
I wish they were like black.
Interesting. Black would look good. Black would look good on there. So,
I don't like the green. I think green with those color schemes clashes.
It's just because it's a different color green than the support structure.
Yeah.
Because it is a different shade. So.
Well, I feel like I like the support structures because it blends in with the trees. So that's why the rails look striking.
I will say that the coaster is very, like, the color scheme pops.
Yeah.
So, especially
but,
like over
the train,
the water.
I feel like it would have looked better with like a purple or a black or something. Something that was not, I don't know. It just doesn't go with the, I don't know.
Interesting.
There you go. Sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize for having an opinion.
Well, your opinion's wrong, so.
Well, thank you for tuning into today's episode. We're going, yeah, no kidding. My word. All right. Here's the description on the park's website. Get wrapped in the coils and be prepared to drop 144 feet into the depths of the Anaconda. You'll be rocketed through 2,700 feet of track at speeds up to 50 miles per hour through an underwater tunnel, vertical loops, sharp twists, and turns. There you go. It goes on to talk a little about the layout. You really should
watch him do this, honestly, because he gets really into this. Like, he puts the microphone super close to his mouth and very in character. Very.
It's a different persona, right?
Oh, dear heavens. Oh, my gosh.
Customer reviews. These ones are interesting. Oh, here's 1 star. I will say this coaster probably has the worst reviews of any coaster we've done so far.
I mean, it's hard because it's like okay, go ahead and read it.
Yeah, okay. So here's 1 star. Was the only bad coaster in the park. Felt like I might get a concussion when riding.
I felt that. I felt like my head was rattled around so much.
Yeah,
it was just like,
it's definitely a headbanger, and we'll see that
in
theme
not a good way.
We'll see that
not
theme.
A good headbanger ride.
We'll see that theme as we go throughout these reviews. It's another 1 star. The ride is too rough. Headrests need better padding. It can give you a concussion. The ride itself, when your head isn't being banged around, is fantastic. Love the double loops. So,
I could get behind that if they retract it, if they gave better restraints.
Honestly, I think if just the restraints would help a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bumpy,
but
a
lap bar would be cool, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So, or even vest restraints or something. So, here's another 1 star. I've had the feeling I was falling out of this ride twice in my life. I'm never getting on it again. Could be because of my bigger gut, but still very scary. Big guys out there, I would think twice. I wanted to include this one just because I wanted to give some advice that coasters, I mean, it might feel like you're falling out, if you're bigger, or I know bigger people feel that way, and also sometimes tiny people feel that way.
Yeah, because I feel that way sometimes on coasters.
Yeah,
and I'm not super tiny, but I'm small enough that I'm holy cow, I'm gonna fall out, Jackrabbit at Kennywood.
Yeah,
I always feel that way.
Yeah, and I get that. There's definitely been coasters I felt is my thing tight enough, but I mean, these are engineered so that they know exactly. If you're too big, they'll know that. They're not going to put you on a ride unless you fit within the parameters. And then you can't. I've never heard of a person being too small for a ride unless you're too short, obviously. But so just wanted to say I don't. This person I don't think was ever in danger of falling out. Just it may have felt that way to them. So. Here's another 1 star. This ride turns your brain into pieces on the double corkscrews. The only good part about this ride is the view of Lake Charles. Okay.
All right.
Brain to pieces. I can see that. I like this one. Anaconda is the roughest steel coaster I have ever been on. I have additional CTE from that coaster.
Okay, that's actually really funny.
That's awesome.
I really like that.
That was clever. 2 stars. I hit my head so much I felt like I got a concussion, and I still have a headache 4 hours later. Yikes. No fun.
My advice is I always take some kind of, like, I take ibuprofen, Tylenol, and Excedrin into the park with me.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, this is one of those coasters that if you are prone to headaches, I would say if you want to get the credit, do it once, get the credit, and then probably don't ride it again. So, like, if I went back to King's Dominion, I'll ride this again because I'm not super prone to headaches, but I don't know that you would ride it again.
Right.
So,
if you're a GP like me and you're like, I don't care if I miss out on it, then yeah, this is a ride I would not recommend going on if you're prone to headaches. So.
Then I think this is the last one. 4 stars. This coaster has good elements. It can be a little rough. Do not keep anything on you that you don't want to lose, as some of the inversions are over the water. I didn't even think about that. If your phone falls out of your pocket on this ride,
it's gone.
You ain't getting it back.
I wonder how many phones have fallen.
I wondered that.
Do they have people that go get them?
Well, I doubt it. I mean, maybe if it's like your car keys so that you can get home, but I don't know how they would do that. They don't have like divers on at the park.
They would have to have some kind of way to get stuff.
I don't know. Because if it falls out of your pocket, whose responsibility is that?
Well,
it's not the park's.
No, it's not.
Yeah, they tell you. They give you plenty of heads up. So I don't know. That is interesting. It's kind of a unique thing that only happens with coasters over the water. So.
I mean, but is it really like a lake, or is it just like a
it's
glorified pond?
I don't know how deep it is, but
how deep is it?
I'm not sure. So based on some of the pictures we'll look at in a few minutes, I don't know, 10, 15 feet maybe. So I mean, it's decent. So I don't know.
There's people that do like the magnetic fishing. I'm sure that
maybe they have a boat with the magnet on it. They can go and grab your keys. I don't know. I feel like they may just say
sorry,
or it may be like we can't get it until after the park closes or something like that.
Yeah, I could see that. But
that could be true. So
I mean, they kind of did that with Pam's phone, like when she lost her phone. Like
right.
We'll look after the park closes, kind of thing. But
yeah. So well, hers that wasn't because it fell off a ride though. So
no, it was.
Yeah, that's
just
a little
fell
different.
Out of her pocket walking. So.
Well, that is our introduction to Anaconda. Let's talk about the history of Anaconda. So we are going to go back to 1977. All right, 1977. So 2 years prior to where we're at in 77, King's Dominion had just opened. 1975, they just opened. So, but they were already looking at their next roller coaster. So, because they currently had Woodstock Express, which is still there. Galaxy, which was like a portable steel coaster that was at the park. It's not there anymore. And then Rebel Yell, which is now known as Racer 75, which is still at the park. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So they would ultimately land on a brand new model being offered by Schwarzkopf, which was their launched shuttle loop model, which we've talked about so many times because it's like all these different parks got in on the launch shuttle loop when it started to become a thing in the late 70s. But this specific model, there's only 3 of them that, there were 3 that would open that year. So there's White Lightning at Carowinds, Greased Lightning at Marriott's Great America, and then there was this one, which is King Kobra at King's Dominion. So yeah, you can kind of see here's a. Then it was Rebel Yell, but that's Racer 75 in the background here, and here's the volcano. Actually,
okay.
the lost, what's it called? Not the Lost Island, the Lost World. Those eventually turned into Volcano, the blast coaster. So get an idea of what we're working with here.
Yeah.
You ready for some commercials? I love old commercials.
Yes, I
Here we
love
go.
old commercials.
You know who Dick Van Dyke is, right?
Yes.
Yes. Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Haley's not as familiar with old TV as my family is. Like, we love the Dick Van Dyke Show in our house. So I'm trying to catch Haley up on all these old shows, but
It's not a bad thing. I just didn't watch it.
It's not a bad thing. So each house has their own things that they're into. But
my dad was super into cop shows. Still is. So.
Yes. But no, so you know Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins though, for sure. So
Yeah.
So he is actually the star of this commercial. So
really?
Yeah, here we go. Here's a Dick Van Dyke King's Dominion commercial from '77.
Challenge of a lifetime. Thundering down the tracks over 60 miles per hour, screeching through an incredible 360-degree loop, and then summoning up the courage to do it all again backwards. Only the bravest can meet a challenge like this.
Are you ready, Dad?
You don't have to be a daredevil to ride King's Dominion's new King Kobra. But it helps.
Can we go again, Dad? Dad?
Okay.
I feel like I might be missing something there, but there you go. There's a TV spot for King Cobra.
We should tag him in this.
Tag Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah. Is he still alive?
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So, let's see. King Cobra. Oh, I have another TV spot here. I won't play this this whole thing because it's like a 2.5 minute thing that was on a TV show actually. But it's like this old TV show where like you would like go to amusement parks and show off like the newest thrills or whatever.
Okay.
So here's a little TV spot.
Some of the steel coaster I personally find the most wonderfully terrifying is what is known as the shuttle loop, such as the King Kobra of King's Dominion in Virginia. You see, it's one thing to go forward through a vertical loop, but then to travel up a dead-end track, stop, and fall through the same loop backwards. That's marvelous.
That's marvelous, he says. This music is a lot.
Oh yeah. Feeling that 70s.
So I
I
won't play.
love the people.
I won't
Look
play.
what they're wearing.
Look at that. That is so 70s, man. I love it.
They have like huge bell-bottom pants.
Yep.
Yes.
All so
Bell bottoms are coming back
Yeah.
in too. It's just so funny, but
that's good stuff. They the other thing I noticed, there's no like the station is out in the sun. Like there's no roof on the station at all. Which is very, very different. It's not really a thing you see anymore. So
yeah.
But the rest of this just kind of shows a POV of the ride and some of the guest reactions. So we won't do the whole thing, but you get the general idea
Yeah.
here. So
That's fun.
yep, fun stuff. I love those old TV spots. They're good. So the early Schwarzkopf shuttle loops had like a weight drop system. Basically, there was a 40-ton weight that was like lifted up in like a tower over by the coaster. And then like this cable went from the weight down into the coaster and would attach to the train. And then when the train was going to be launched, the weight would just drop. And that's what would pull the train down the track. So very different from how we do things nowadays.
That's so true.
Coaster was a really successful investment for the park. It was, really their first big steel coaster. It only operated at the park for about 10 years because after the park opened Shockwave in 1986, which was their stand-up coaster, park officials felt that the coasters were too similar because they both had one loop, but Shockwave was more, had some other things like some airtime hills and some turns. So they felt they were too similar, I guess. And so the decision was made to remove King Kobra in 1987, which they sold to Jolly Roger Amusement Park in Maryland, operated there for a few years, and then it was sold to Alton Towers in the UK, operated there for 6 years, and then it was sold a third time to Catapult in Brazil, where it still operates to this day, actually.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah,
How
so-
many times it's been sold and it's
Yeah,
still running.
it's still kicking. So if you want to ride King Kobra from King's Dominion, it's down in Brazil, apparently. So
All right. Book our tickets.
So after King Kobra closed, so Shockwave had just opened in 86. They closed King Kobra in 87. Now they're looking at what's the next big investment for the park. What's the next coaster after Shockwave? Now, recently, their sister park, Kings Island, had opened a record-breaking coaster called Vortex. Not to be confused with the Vortex at Carowinds, which we've previously talked about. This is totally different. So this is Vortex at Kings Island. Huge, coaster for that
It's
time
not
frame.
still
So
there, though.
it is not still there. We will talk about that. So, because you can actually, you can kind of
It's
see
like
where
a
this
fun
is.
coaster.
You can kind of see where this is at because this is the Beast right here. This is the second lift hill on the Beast coming down into that double helix at the end. This is the Racer over here. So it's kind of that plot of land in between the two of them, which is empty right now. But so Vortex opened in 87. It was the tallest full circuit coaster in the world at 148 feet and the first coaster to feature 6 inversions. So it was a big deal. It was the other thing that's fascinating about this is you'll notice it goes into this first drop. The first drop goes into an airtime hill and then like this turn over here. So you don't even hit the inversions until like after the first 2 elements, and then it somehow still packs in 6 inversions throughout the rest of this ride.
That's insane.
It's pretty impressive.
That looks like fun.
It looks like a fun one. I wish I could have had a chance to try it. So let's see. So the coaster had been really successful for Kings Island. This coaster itself has a fascinating history, which we will talk about someday, not today. We'll talk little bit about it because it's kind of connected to Anaconda's story, but we'll dive deeper into the Vortex story another day. So a lot of other aerodynamics looping coasters opened after Vortex did, but just based on the fact that Kings Island and Kings Dominion are so closely intertwined and both owned by the same company, it's likely the success of Vortex is likely what led to park officials looking into aerodynamics for their next coaster. So in late 1989, early 1990, somewhere in there, Kings Dominion would completely drain Lake Charles, which is that lake that's in the middle of
There
the
you
park.
go. That's how they get their phone back.
They do have the ability to drain the lake, so phone would be ruined by that point, but I guess that's how they get car keys. Who knows? So they empty the lake and start pouring footers for a new attraction, but they hadn't announced anything yet. Okay. Nothing had been officially announced. Speculation was running wild. But like nobody could really get a good look because this was during the off season, so it was really just park employees that knew that this was happening. Okay,
Yeah.
but it was obvious that they were building something. So when the season started back up in 1990, the park filled the lake back up and paused construction on what they were doing, and park guests came back in the park opening of 1990 to a half completed roller coaster. So you can see, here's a picture. This isn't a great picture, but you can see there's, all this half of a roller coaster over here, but then there's still all these concrete footers in place in the lake that hadn't been used yet. So they just kind of put a pause on construction.
Weird.
So my guess is, and based on other things I've read, I think they really just wanted to have the lake filled during the season, like for while the park was open, and they couldn't do construction without the lake being drained. So I guess instead of just draining the lake and having it drained for a season, they decided to do construction in 2 stages. It's kind of interesting. I'm not
okay.
not exactly sure what the point was. So, But finally, in August of 1990, King's Dominion would announce Anaconda. So there's a little blip from a newspaper back in 1990. It would be a $5 million aerodynamics looping coaster that was set to become the world's first roller coaster to go underwater. Or so they thought.
Yeah, I'm like, it doesn't go underwater.
Well, it does. It does go underwater.
Oh, I guess it does have that
Yes,
tunnel.
at the very beginning. So, but the
Yeah.
problem is it was not the first coaster to do that. This has happened a few times where back in, early, back when we didn't have social media where all the parks were aware of everything the other parks were doing. Sometimes they would make claims thinking they were true, and then turns out someone else already did it. Because Six Flags Over Texas, Runaway Mine Train, you can see this is the last drop on Runaway Mine Train, goes very clearly into this little tunnel that goes under this pond right here. Built in 1966. So that was the first roller coaster to go through an underwater tunnel back in 66. So
Water doesn't look very clean.
no, it does
That's
not.
gross.
I don't know. Maybe this is just a bad picture. Maybe it's usually better than that. But so, and to be fair, like this underwater tunnel is much more subtle. Like if the guests aren't paying attention,
Yeah,
they
you
may
would
not
miss
even
it,
really
right?
notice. So, okay. So maybe the park just didn't realize their error. But nowadays they do, the claim the park makes nowadays is correct, as it is the first looping coaster to have an underwater tunnel, which is true. So
Okay.
that's
All right.
that's
Well,
what it says
there's your
nowadays.
Claim to fame.
There you go. Anaconda would have less inversions and be slower and shorter than Vortex, but the park's hope was that the underwater tunnel and the layout over the water would provide a unique experience. So the park began construction extremely early, like we said. Once the 1990 season was finished, the lake was drained again, and then construction was resumed. So here's some construction pics. There's actually some really good construction photos that the park posted on their socials. So this is really cool stuff. You remember we talked about Wildfire a few weeks ago, and like I couldn't find anything, and it was like so frustrating that there was like no construction photos of Wildfire.
Yeah.
So that was 2001. This is 10 years earlier. So it's just I like when the
It's
park
like possible.
yeah, the park posts stuff like this so that other people can see it. So that's very cool. Now, tell me something you might notice about the roller coaster in these pictures.
It's different color.
It is a different color. I had no idea about that until I started doing the research for this. But the red and yellow paint scheme is not the original paint scheme. So and this technically isn't quite the original paint scheme too. They did a little work on it afterwards, but we will get to that in just a second. So just like we were talking about earlier with like trying to figure out how deep the lake is. So you can kind of get an idea here. So like, cause you can see these footers. I mean, so there's a construction, like there's a truck right there.
Right.
And the top of these footers is where the water comes to. So I mean, that's probably like 10 feet, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 8, I guess. So it's not super deep for sure, but deep enough. So
Deep enough that they couldn't just reach their hand in and grab it.
yeah. So I think I got here's one more picture with the Eiffel Tower in the background. So fun
Is
stuff.
there fish in here? That'd be funny.
I don't know.
You're fishy.
I can't remember if there were fish in it when we went.
I can't remember either. That'd be...
Anyway. So there's some pictures. Here's a promo for the ride that they released. It says, introducing the new King of the Wild, the Anaconda. You're not going to believe your eyes when you see this ride. Just imagine a one-of-a-kind roller coaster that plunges 14 stories into an underwater tunnel, emerges, twists, cranks, throws you for a loop a total of 6 times, and corkscrews just a few feet above the water. Now try riding it. The Anaconda, just one more reason nobody has more fun than King's Dominion.
I appreciate that they stuck with the jungle theme when they themed that area.
Yeah,
It just seems like it's kind of a payoff to, hey, this is the original plan, like, is a jungle theme.
Yeah, that section of the park, as I've been doing my research, has pretty much had a jungle theme the entire time. Because I guess what used to be over on that section of the park was actually a drive-through safari.
Oh, cool.
And then they changed that into like a monorail that went through the safari. And then that closed at some point. But so like that whole section of the park has basically been like jungle slash, at one point it was called the Congo. So it was kind of more of an Africa theme. And then lately they went kind of back with I think they called it Safari Village. And then more recently, the Jungle Expedition is what they call it nowadays.
Right.
So, but yeah, they've pretty much stuck to the jungle theme in that section of the park.
I like that.
So it's a little confusing because Flight of Fear is also over there, and that is very clearly not a jungle theme.
Don't know why they put that there, but whatever.
I don't know. I guess
we've talked about this before.
Because there's just no better place to put it. But well, after a very long 19-month construction process, Anaconda would finally open to the public on March 23rd, 1991. Here's some pictures from early on in its life. So this is the original paint scheme. It was like a
black and a green.
Well, it's like a dark green. So this color that the support is, that's the same color that the spine is, but then the rails were like an orange color.
Okay.
So not bad. I like the paint scheme actually.
So you like that?
I mean, it doesn't pop as much as the red and the yellow does.
Yeah.
But it feels more menacing to me, kind of like a snake would be.
Okay,
so,
I guess.
I don't know. It just kind of depends what you're going for, I guess. This would certainly contrast better against Intimidator 305, but hindsight's 2020. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Anyway, the ride experience is as follows. The train leaves the station and begins climbing the 128-foot lift hill. From there, riders dive 144 feet as they twist to the right. The train then plunges into the 126-foot-long underwater tunnel, hitting its max speed of 50 miles per hour. The train exits this tunnel, entering a 100-foot vertical loop, followed by a 90-foot sidewinder inversion to the right. After a small hill, the train enters the brake run, nearly slowing down to a complete stop. The second part of the ride begins with a butterfly figure 8 element consisting of a downward bank turn to the left, immediately followed by an upward bank turn to the right. The last turn to the right transitions the train into the 25-foot double corkscrew. Immediately following is a small bunny hill with a short dive under the lift hill that turns to the left into the final brick run. So, I got another commercial. I got an Anaconda commercial now. You ready for this?
Sure.
Oh, I love these. These are so great. This one got cut off a little bit. So it's supposed to be like a 30-second commercial. And I guess whoever recorded it only caught the first 20 seconds. Still pretty great, though. So.
Okay.
Oh, wait. I muted for that other
Oh, Nathan.
I'm sorry.
Such a letdown.
We're professional podcasters here. Okay.
Far from it.
Here we go.
How intense is the new Anaconda roller coaster at King's Dominion? Let's just say it's enough to put a few gray hairs on you.
What the?
So if you aren't able to watch the commercial, which, by the way, I totally forgot to mention this at the beginning of the episode. That's my bad. If you go
Again, you're such a letdown.
professional podcasters here. If you go and follow us on social media, we're on Twitter/X. I don't know what it's called anymore. Just call it Twitter for now, I guess. If you go on Twitter
social media
or
page.
Instagram, that one social media page that Elon Musk owns. If you go there or Instagram and follow us, our handle's just at Airtime Traveler. I'll post some of the photos and videos that I've been showing Haley throughout today's episode. So Instagram, you won't be able to see everything because I'm limited to 10 photos and I can't post videos. But Twitter, you can pretty much see everything. So if you're not able to do that, the commercial I just showed Haley, it shows a couple in the front of the coaster, like a young couple in like their 20s or their teens, getting on the coaster, and then after the coaster's over, they pull back in, and it's like an elderly couple, and they're like their 60s or 70s, and I think the commercial says like it'll put gray hairs on your head,
Yeah,
or
that's
something
exactly
like
what
that.
it says. Yeah.
So a little cheesy, very 90s.
It's majorly 90s.
So here's a park map from 1991. So you can kind of see the layout's fairly obviously fairly similar to what it is nowadays. The biggest difference is Anaconda is basically on a path all by itself, and nowadays you can keep going out this way, where Flight of Fear and Intimidator 305 are out this way.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, and I guess Backlot Stunt Coaster's like right here nowadays.
Well, and the new monkey coaster, whatever.
Oh, the Tumbili is like right here. So yeah, bunch of extra stuff over on that side of the park that isn't there or wasn't there at this time. I like also here you can see that there's like a section of track missing here, like where it goes underwater. So they made sure to include that detail on the map. And it also says here, site for new water park 1992, which
Never happened, did it?
What's that? Yeah, it did. So this picture here. So this is during the King Kobra era. So you can see King Kobra on the lake here. Here's Racer 75 coming down the other side.
Yeah, I forgot that they had a water park. We just don't go to those.
We don't really. Well, and you can see the lake used to be huge. I guess they used to do like boat shows and skiing, like water skiing stunt shows on the lake for people to watch too. But they basically just covered up like the lake, like 2/3 of it, and then put the water park down right there. So, but then you can see there's a little bit of the lake left, which is where Anaconda sits nowadays. So, the early descriptions of the ride seemed very confused about the layout. Like many sources believed that so it's called a butterfly figure eight. So essentially, it makes a figure eight shape, but it's two banked turns that like cross over each other to make the figure eight shape.
Okay.
But you don't actually go upside down during that portion of the ride. But I guess the way the park described it to people, like everyone thought it was going to be a 6 inversion coaster, and it's only 4. Like everything I read, like all the newspapers were like, is going to have 6 loops, and it's
weird.
Yeah, very strange. Like even this article here from Ace, which Ace clearly knows what they're talking about when it comes to roller coasters. I should have marked it in here where it says. But yeah, here it says, in total, the Anaconda will send riders upside down 6 times. So, straight up in the Ace publication, they're talking about this coaster going upside down 6 times when clearly it does not. So, very weird, very strange. So, anyway. Some stats about the ride. Oh, wait, I've got one more article here. This one's funny. You ready? Mm-hmm. King's Dominion's new Anaconda roller coaster starts off by lifting you 130 feet above a lake, then dropping you 144 feet. The mighty splash never comes because the coaster cars plunge through a 125-foot tunnel under the water. Yet all but the most iron-stomached riders will come away at least moist, with clammy hands and sweat-beaded brows.
Ew, don't use the word moist. Oh, gross.
It gets better. Which is the region's newest major coaster is a heart-pounding success. It's a 2,700-foot torture track that makes Busch Gardens King Kobra look like a garter snake. The Anaconda Super Duper 6-looper, again, is not 6 loops. Can take you from breakfast to hell in a minute 45.
Oh my goodness.
What does that even mean?
Breakfast to hell? My goodness.
I'm so confused.
This
is... What else does he say here? Park calls a butterfly configuration, but may remind riders more of angel wings. So sharply due off-center G-forces stimulate intimations of mortality. What is this guy was?
What is going on? He is very descriptive.
Yes,
and
he is.
Not in the best of ways.
It's very strange. He tried to make this as dramatic as possible, I guess.
Well, he got the dramatic part.
I was able to ride the Anaconda only twice, once in the front and once in the rear, before my cookies rumbled. What
the heck?
is happening?
I do not like this article. I do not like this.
Oh. So the lift hill for Anaconda sits exactly where King Kobra used to sit. You can actually, when you're in the station, you can see some of the footers for King Kobra. You can see them in this picture right here. So you can see some of the footers.
I think you mentioned that actually to me.
I can't remember if I did or didn't, but
I mean,
yeah,
I
so that's
wouldn't be
cool.
surprised if
No,
you
that
did.
does sound like something I would do. The tunnel goes about 15 feet underwater. When it opened, it featured a splashing effect as trains dove under the water to kind of give the illusion of the train actually going like underwater. So the water feature has been broken on and off over the last 30 years the ride's been open. Because like when you and I went, it wasn't working, but actually I think I have do I have a video? Yes, I do. Here's a video of it from actually I think it's just a GIF here that you can watch. Oh, if it's gonna load. Oh, come on, Reddit. There we go. So you can see it's got this splashing effect that kind of gives the illusion of it diving down into the water and then back out of the water.
I kind of wish it did that when we were there.
I know. So because this was pretty recent, like this is within the last 2 years that this person posted this. So I don't know. It's been definitely off and on whether the splashing effect works or not. But let's see what else we got here. 90% of the layout is over the water, which is pretty unique. Now, that comes with some tricky things if the train were to ever get stuck at a certain portion. So there's two... what's the word I'm looking for? There's like two ways of evacuating if it were ever necessary to do so.
Jump.
So if the train were to ever not be able to complete the loop, which to my knowledge has never happened, but they have a fail-safe built in just in case. There is a small walkway from the land over to the tunnel right here, which is also necessary for the teams to do maintenance if necessary. Okay. And then the more obvious one is if for some reason the train has to stop on the brake run because something else happened further up on the track. There is a walkway over the water down below, so you'd walk down these steps, and then I would walk across this bridge back to shore, so to speak.
No thanks. Again, that is like I know it's going to happen one day because like that's just part of riding roller coasters. Is eventually you end up getting stuck at least one time, right?
Bound to happen.
It's bound to happen, but I'm like terrified of that happening to me. Like that's I just don't like. Especially getting stuck on like a lift hill and then having to walk down, that would freak me out. I would panic. I would full on panic.
Hopefully it never happens. So coaster would be a major success among enthusiasts and the GP alike. It wasn't the tallest or the fastest, but it was a really solid addition to King's Dominion's lineup at the time. We're a professional podcast. The success of the coaster would attract Ace to hold their annual Coaster Con at King's Dominion for the summer of 1992. I've got a few articles from this because it's really interesting. I should have made this bigger. I can't really read this. There's this lady in this article that she was the oldest Ace member at the time. And you can see, so here, what's her name? Here we go, 77-year-old Marie Miller from New Jersey. So she rode the Anaconda during Coaster Con during that trip. And she was able to sit next to 9-year-old Jeff Stevens from Ohio, who was the youngest member of Ace at the time. So,
that's cute.
So the oldest and youngest members of Ace were able to ride Anaconda next to each other.
That's adorable.
So she has a couple quotes in here that are really interesting. One of the things she said was that when she goes through the corkscrews on the ride, she likes to look up so that she can see her reflection in the water.
Oh, what?
When I heard that, I was like, whoa, that sounds a little nauseating to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I would like that.
I don't know how I'd feel about that. So, but then I like this one. She says, she gives some advice to people that like she's afraid people will go on coasters that are too big and then it scares them from ever riding coasters again. So she's like, don't do Anaconda first, like do some of the smaller ones and work your way up. So she says, start on the small ones and work your way up is my advice, but keep on riding. I think the coasters have kept me young, and I plan on riding them until the day I die.
She probably did, too.
Oh, she said she would be like 110 at this point. So
Yeah.
she obviously must have passed away at some point, obviously. So
I don't know. My grandmother plans on living that long, so.
I think you got one more article here. This one, there's not much here. It's just strange.
Bring your bathing suit.
Well, it's talking about the new Hurricane Reef Water Park, which we talked about for 1992.
No, you
But then
don't need your
this
bathing
little
suit.
this little blurb here is funny. Now, in its second season, the Anaconda features a 144-foot drop. It goes to talk about the whole layout. A sidewinder, butterfly loop, and a twisting, turning corkscrew, and you have one of the world's most expensive hair dryers.
All right.
Okay, that's funny.
That's
You know,
creative.
it sits right next to the water park, so okay, I get what he's going for. So, in 1993, so just a couple years after the coaster opened, King's Dominion was purchased by Paramount along with the other parks in the chain, Kings Island, Carowinds, Canada's Wonderland, and California's Great America. So those were all purchased and became the Paramount parks. As part of the opening celebration, many park employees dressed up as Paramount characters and would even ride some of the rides in character. So as part of that, I was able to grab this image right here, which is awesome. This is such a great photo.
What?
Okay, so those are Klingons, right? Do you know what Klingons come from?
Star Trek?
Hey, well done. Haley passed the test. Now, I have a fun story to tell about
Embarrassing
this.
that I know that.
That's not embarrassing.
That's
You,
embarrassing.
Haley, you just offended all of our Star Trek fans.
Sorry.
Guys,
not
I'm
a
sorry.
Star
Haley's
Trek
not into the nerd culture as much as I am. I'm sorry. It's okay.
You watch Star Trek?
I used to watch it when I was younger. I don't watch it as much as
I was gonna
used
say,
to,
I
so.
don't think I've ever seen you
No,
watch a
I
Star
don't.
Trek movie.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched Star Trek since we've been married, but I used to watch it a lot when I was a teenager.
Not even dating. Like, I don't think I've ever seen you watch a Star Trek thing
Yeah,
ever.
so. When I was a teenager, you still watched a lot, but
All right.
so I have a fun story about this picture though.
Okay.
So I joined a group on Facebook of this group called King's Dominion Historians because I wanted to see if I could get some advice from anybody, like find some details and stuff. And I posted this picture because I was like, I know there's got to be some historical significance because the park posted this on their Twitter. So this wasn't just like some image, like the park. This was taken
thing,
by
yeah.
King's Dominion. And this guy commented on it. His name is Kevin Jenkins. And he told me, he was like, first of all, it was for when Paramount bought the parks, Paramount owns Star Trek. And so they had like Star Trek characters riding rides and walking around the park as part of the like celebration. And then he said, the reason I know that is because I was the Klingon. He was the guy, the male Klingon in this picture.
That was
awesome.
him.
Now, what's fascinating about it is, so he worked for the park and he was in their entertainment. Like I think he was a singer. And so he would do shows like singing, but then he would also dress up and do other things like that too. But he worked for the park as the park was, developing the coaster. And he was actually the one that suggested the name Anaconda when they were trying to come up with the name for the coaster.
He commented on your thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I had a
that's
short
really
conversation
cool.
with him. I had heard that rumor because I had seen someone else post about it, saying that the Klingon, the male Klingon in this picture was actually the guy that named it. And so when he commented on it and said that's me, and I was like, okay, I've heard a rumor. Tell me if it's true.
Yeah.
Did you actually name the coaster?
We got to chat.
And he said, yeah, I did. I was the one that named the coaster.
Oh
and
my gosh.
So that's pretty cool to have a little chat with Kevin. And so just want to give him a little shout out.
That's really cool.
So
Okay, so now we need to invite him to our podcast.
yeah. So I don't know how long he worked at the park for, but apparently there was a specific group of them that were that dressed up as Klingons. And so they kind of have their little tight-knit group of like the Klingons at King's Dominion in the early 90s. It's pretty great.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty fun. Another fun fact I found, there was so much fun stuff that I found just as I was digging, which is that's why I love doing this podcast, because I can just sit here and geek about this, and some people will come and listen, and some people may make fun of me, and I don't care.
Yeah, that's, well.
So in the late 90s, Dollywood was working with aerodynamics on Tennessee Tornado. Okay. And during that time, so there's a little, not misconception, what's the word? There's conflicting reports on what exactly happened. So here's what we do know. This is from that time frame when this model that we're looking at is from the time frame when they were planning it out. Now, there's 3 different coaster layouts here. One is very close to what Tennessee Tornado actually is nowadays. That's this wire here you see. So it goes up the hill, comes down through the mountain, goes into the vertical loop, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. This black one is the layout of their mine train coaster that used to sit there before Tennessee Tornado. So that's no longer there, but that's what used to occupy that spot. Now, this red layout is interesting because it is Anaconda's layout. It is identical. If you look, so here's the lift here. Here it goes down here, underwater, into the loop, into the Sidewinder. Here's the figure 8, and into the double corkscrew back into the station. So there's 2 conflicting stories on what happened here. The prevailing theory is that when Aerodynamics came to, or when Dollywood came to Aerodynamics, they pitched putting an Anaconda clone in that spot. And then the alternative was, we can do a custom layout for you. So your cheap option would be to just do a clone of this coaster we already did. Your more expensive alternative would be to do a custom layout. And ultimately, Dollywood went with the custom layout. Okay?
Right.
That's the prevailing theory. The other theory, which also happens to make sense, is that the Anaconda layout was originally pitched to Dollywood first. Because, so what was the name of this mine train coaster? Thunder Express. So Thunder Express was built in 1989, so before Anaconda was built. So someone looked at the model and was like, it's strange that 2 of the coasters on here are push pins and the other one is a wire. Almost like they used this twice. So someone thinks the original pitch was for, they came to him and said, here, we could either do this mine train or we could do this looper coaster. So they just had the red and the black push pins on here. And then they ultimately went with the mine train. So then Aerodynamics recycled that layout and sold it to King's Dominion as an underwater tunnel instead of into the mountain like it is here. Now that theory kind of makes sense because it's very strange that Anaconda's layout just happens to fit perfectly into the terrain of this area.
Right.
And it would be very easy for you to take a terrain coaster and just plop it over the top of a lake. So I don't know what the true story is, but it's kind of interesting.
That's the question you need to ask. Is it Kyle?
Kevin. I don't know. Kevin was in the entertainment department. I don't know if he would know this. We probably would need someone at Dollywood would really be who would know the answer to this one.
Dollywood historians.
Yeah. So that's interesting. This model still exists. This model's at the National Roller Coaster Museum down in Texas. So that's where this picture comes from. And this picture was just posted in April, too. So this is a pretty recent development of people trying to figure out what the true story is here. So kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
Let's see. The coaster would continue to operate through the 90s as the park added other coasters such as Hurler in 94 and Flight of Fear in 96. During this time, the park would actually allow search and rescue teams in the area to use the lift hill as like a unique training opportunity. So check this out. So here's this newspaper article here. Rescue 1997 participants rise to the challenge. So they essentially use the lift hill as an opportunity for search and rescue teams to practice saving people in like kind of a unique situation. So like
Weird.
They can do simulations like back in their own facilities, but the park basically allowed them to come use the lift hill, which is like over the water. So that way they can kind of practice, like, trying to rescue somebody that's like hanging like on a cliffside or something over the water. Like, it's just really interesting. I've never seen any parks do something like this. Not to say they don't. I haven't seen this before.
Right.
And so when I read this article, I was like, that is really cool. And they still do it today because I found, so this was 1997. Here's a picture from 2012. So this is a mannequin right here. And then this is one of the search and rescue workers kind of practicing. This is, this is still on the lift hill. So yeah, very, very interesting.
That is interesting.
So, now that I look at it, this is the brake run. Yeah, because here's the Sidewinder right here. So this is actually the mid-course brake run they're practicing on right here. So it looks like they've given them like different portions of the track to like practice their search and rescue efforts on, which is really cool. I really like that. So kudos to King's Dominion for that. So
now you can be part of the search and rescue. Actually, please don't do that. So
let's see. In 2001, Anaconda celebrated its 10th birthday. Park officials decided to give the coaster a major refurb, which included a brand new paint job. So it was 10 years into its life cycle that is when they repainted it. So here's the side by side before and after. So it went from that dark green and orange to what it is today, the red and yellow with the green support structure. So, and it has stayed that way to this day. Interestingly enough, the trains are the same color though. Did not change the color of the train. So on the dark green and the orange, they still had the green trains on that as well. So they have changed slightly because like it used to have the old park logo on it, and nowadays I think it has the logo of the coaster on it. So like they've made slight adjustments, but I think the trains have been green the whole time. So let's see. So 2010, the park would open Intimidator 305 in a large plot of land right next to Anaconda, which we talked about means that they kind of clash. Like you can kind of see in this picture how like the red and yellow of Anaconda kind of clashes with the red and yellow of Intimidator. So is what it is. Let's see, 2014, the park would celebrate the 40th anniversary of its first attraction, which is the Lion Country Safari, which we talked about.
okay.
As part of this, the rides in and around that section of the park where the safari once stood got upgrades and updates, including Anaconda getting a fresh paint job. Same colors, they basically just repainted it, so it looked all nice and pretty for the 40th anniversary. I was slightly confused though, because I guess the safari opened in 74, but the park opened in 75. So they celebrated the 40th anniversary of both. So essentially the park did like a 40th anniversary for like 2 years straight. This was kind of interesting.
Disney kind of did something
Disney
simpler.
definitely. Disney, I think it was 18 months for the 50th, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'll be curious to see what King's Dominion decides to do next year, because next year would be the 50th anniversary of the first ride, but 2025 would be the 50th anniversary of the park. So we'll see. The coasters obviously declined in popularity compared to some of the other newer and better coasters opening in the park, but 2018, it still gave over 500,000 rides in the 2018 season. And that was the year that Twisted Timbers opened. So that's pretty impressive for, it's still holding its own as far as ridership is concerned. So let's see. Fall of 2018. Okay. Over the past several years, there's been constant rumors about if Anaconda is going to get torn out or not, right?
Okay.
So 2018, there were rumors flying all over the place about Anaconda, but also Vortex at Kings Island. Kings Island actually, to the point that Kings Island would actually respond to these rumors on September 27th, 2018, with this picture of Vortex that says, rumors of its demise have been greatly exaggerated. Okay? So essentially telling people, like, it's fine. Vortex isn't going anywhere, right? What they ended up closing was Firehawk, which they needed to close so that they could begin construction on Orion. So we'll talk about that some other time. But so essentially 2018, Kings Island saying like, don't worry, Vortex is fine. It's not going anywhere. 1 year to the day later, Kings Island announces that Vortex will be retired after 33 seasons at the park.
Liar!
It is so fascinating to me that, one, it was only a year later, but two, a year to the day that they made that post that it wasn't going anywhere. Like, that's, I don't even think that was on purpose. I just think that was a 1 in a million that's how that happened.
I think it was on purpose.
I don't think it was on purpose
No.
because why would you tell your guests that like this coaster's fine, it's not going anywhere, and then a year later announce that it's being removed? That doesn't seem like good PR to me. So I don't know. So people were stunned by this because the coaster was still fairly popular.
Right.
I mean, it's in the middle of the park. It's got, it was bumpy. Yeah, it was 33 years old, but I think a lot of enthusiasts especially still enjoyed it. So the question everybody had was, what happened? Well, there's never really been an official announcement other than the park said it had reached the end of its life cycle. But there is a rumor in the industry that Anaconda was supposed to close in 2019 to open room for development, but also provide parts to Vortex and some of the other aero loopers in the chain, because Anaconda is probably one of the least liked ones in the chain. Now, I don't know, maybe Corkscrew at Valley Fair is ranked lower, I think, in the Coaster Bot rankings. Corkscrew at Cedar Point's ranked lower, but it's not going anywhere. But then all the other loopers were ranked higher than it, like Carolina Cyclone and Vortex. So it seemed like Anaconda was the one that was going to go out the door. But Volcano caused problems. Because if you remember, Volcano closed in 2018.
Yeah.
So park officials felt King's Dominion could not afford to lose 2 coasters in 2 years. And so rather than tear out Anaconda, the decision was made to tear out Vortex instead. Now, like I said, that is not confirmed. That's just rumor. That's just speculation. But it does make sense. So, like I said, we'll do a Vortex episode some other time. I've thought about maybe next year's Halloween special. We might do Vortex.
Next year's or this year's?
Next year's, because I already have another one in mind for this year. But
no spoilers.
No spoilers. So yeah, it's interesting. It's, people I think would definitely say they'd have Vortex back instead of Anaconda, but it's just kind of how it played out, which ties into our last episode talking about Volcano the Blast Coaster. So it's interesting how all these coasters kind of interweave and what happens to one affects another and vice versa.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. So that was sad for Kings Island, lost Vortex. That plot of land is still empty, so something's got to be coming there eventually. But anyway, to this day, there really hasn't been a lot of coasters that have underwater tunnels. As far as I can tell, there's only 4 that I know of. There's probably more just because the RCDB doesn't list underwater tunnels as a specific feature. It just lists tunnels. So I wasn't about to go through like the hundreds of coasters that have a tunnel on them just to find the ones that have underwater. But I do know for sure the 2 most popular ones. So there's this one, which is in tons of clickbait YouTube roller coaster videos because it's so picturesque. But this one's called Vanish, which is in Japan. And it does look really cool. Like the underwater tunnel has a very cool splash feature that you can see in this picture.
Yeah, it does. That's cool.
Yeah, it looks very nice. And then the other one, which was open more recently, this is a dive coaster called Yukon Striker that opened at Canada's Wonderland in 2019, I think. So fairly recently. And that one also does feature an underwater tunnel as well. So, but other than that, there's really not like a lot of coasters that have done the underwater tunnel thing. So Anaconda was kind of a trailblazer in that sense. So then the last thing to talk about, how much longer does Anaconda have? what is next for Anaconda? Because
Yeah, I'm curious.
the rumors continue to fly. So some of the things I've heard, there's a rumor in August of last year that Anaconda has already been purchased by another park and will be removed prior to the 2025 season to make room for a huge coaster for the park's 50th anniversary in 2025. And supposedly the coaster will reuse the tunnel. So that's the rumor that was going around last year. A lot of people have disputed that, saying that it doesn't really make sense. And also there's no like reputable sources that have confirmed that. So it could just be all complete hearsay and completely fabricated. The other major rumor that I actually talked about when California's Great America was announced that it was going to be closing in the next 10 years, I did a Coaster Conversations episode talking about where the coasters at that park could possibly be relocated to.
Yeah.
And they have a coaster there called Flight Deck, right? Flight Deck? Yeah. Which is a B&M inverted coaster. And King's Dominion doesn't have one of those. And B&Ms have really been fairly reliable, and I don't know, I know some of them have been relocated, so I know it's possible. It's an old inverted coaster, like I think it was like early 90s, so it was one of the earlier models. But I talked about that there's potential to, what if they ripped out Anaconda and put Flight Deck over the water at King's Dominion instead. So that's just speculation on my part. I'm not even going to say I think that's going to happen. I was more just proposing that as a what if scenario. But it does, begs, it is interesting to think about, because to this, I mean, we read it earlier that Anaconda has an average 13-minute wait.
Right.
So it doesn't really have, a lot of people clamoring to ride it. But on the flip side, it still had, 500,000 plus riders in 2018. And I imagine it's probably in the 400,000 to 500,000 range nowadays. So it's still popular enough, but a lot of people complain about it. It's got, really nice real estate right there on the lake.
I guess that's true.
I don't know.
I could see a new coaster going in there.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I don't know how much longer Anaconda's going to be around. People have been speculating about its demise for years, and it hasn't happened yet. So who knows?
Don't get your hopes up, I guess.
Don't get your hopes up one way or the other. Don't get your hopes up that it's staying or that it's leaving, because who knows?
Yep, no one knows.
But that is the history of Anaconda at King's Dominion. And
all right, Kevin, what you think?
What you think, Kevin? Thanks for your input, and that's pretty fun. You got to name the coaster. That's man, that would be so cool to just, even if it's like,
that's your claim to fame.
Your claim to fame is
yes.
just that you named a major roller coaster at a theme park. That's cool. So cool.
He's got to, when they do take it apart, he's got to, be one that gets to keep part of the roller coaster.
Oh, certainly. I would hope so. So, well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Airtime Traveler. If you liked that episode, be sure to give us a 5-star rating. If you're on mobile, you can just scroll up to the top of the podcast page, and you'll see a little spot there that you can leave a rating. And I know a few of you have already done that. We really appreciate it. It helps people find the podcast in the future. Like I said, you can go and follow us on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram, just at Airtime Traveler. And you can see some of the stuff I showed Haley throughout today's episode. And you can also, see some of the other discussions that we're having. We just did a trip report from Kentucky Kingdom earlier this week. I'll be doing a trip report from my trip to Lagoon, sometime in the next couple weeks as well. So be sure to keep an eye out for those, and you can follow us here on Spotify as well, or wherever you're listening, if you want to be kept up to date on future episodes as well. So, any final thoughts from the GP for today's episode?
Wear a helmet.
Wear a helmet?
Yeah, on Anaconda.
Oh, because of the head banging.
Yeah.
You wear just get like a pillow and just strap it to the top of your head. Or bubble wrap. Ooh, there you go.
Ooh.
Just
Just
wrap
don't
your,
put it on your face.
wrap your head in bubble wrap and then just poke a hole for you to breathe in.
Dear heavens, that sounds even more uncomfortable.
That sounds hot and sweaty.
No thanks.
Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the podcast, and we'll see you in the next one.